Welcome to Jen Taub Live. And today, you know what? Let's change things up. We deserve to start with our person of the day. Why not? My person of the day today is none other than journalist Catherine Rampell, who I have sometimes referred to as Charlotte for some reason. Either name suits her. And she is our person of the day today on Jen Taub Live and deserves the top line billing because she called out one of the creepiest MAGA supporters, Scott Jennings. You have seen his foolishness over and over again. And so our person of the day, Catherine Rampell, is having none of the mendacity, the malevolency, and the moronic comments. And here is Catherine totally calling him out on CNN. Let's play it.
This salute trutherism is outrageous. This is the most.
Do it right now on TV.
This is the biggest conspiracy
do it right now on TV.
It's crazy.
If you think it's normal, if you think this is a normal way to greet people, do it right now on TV.
Scott,
why won't you?
I want to.
I love that. Now, here's the deal, though. On the one hand, Catherine Rampell is absolutely my hero because she's calling out Scott Jennings, who is trying to claim that the Sieg Heil Nazi salute performed by Elon Musk, who also, right before Holocaust Remembrance Day, was zooming in to a far-right Nazi party meeting, right, in Germany. He's trying to claim that it is a normal gesture that people just greet each other with, and it's not. So on the one hand, I love that she is proving him wrong by saying, if you think it's so great, do it on TV, because she knows damn well, and he knows damn well, that his contract would be canceled if he did that. On the other hand, we're now having young people imitate that salute, or I wouldn't say imitate it. They know what they're doing, but now they feel like they have permission to give it, even though they are signaling to each other that they are Nazis, that they are racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and generally hateful people who believe in fascism. And they are giving each other that salute, all the while trying to, again, signal to each other, we're on the same team, but also having this plausible deniability that they can tell people, just like Scott Jennings did, it's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. And we will continue to call that out here. Now, remember, people like Scott Jennings are going to peddle lies. And on this show, we have a motto, and you know what it is. It comes from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Soviet dissident who wrote the book Gulag Archipelago, and it was published like in the 70s, and which I have not read, but I think it's time that I do, because I was a mere child at the time, who, as you may remember, my mother would ask me to say the words Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I think I had a gap in my teeth and missing teeth at the time because I was a small child, and maybe she thought it was funny. But anyway, here's what he said. Here is our motto here on Jen Taub Live. The simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie. That is fundamental. And if you're not taking part in the lie, then your level of anxiety and frustration with people who've decided to succumb will go down. Because if you're not tempted to take part in the lie, then you have to understand that you are dealing with two types of people who are fine or trying to ignore or deny what Donald Trump and MAGA is doing, right? What we're dealing with are those who fully support it, and they're dangerous, and they are in the minority despite what people think. And then there are the others who are in their go along to get along phase, or just don't have enough information. And for them, I have pity. Yes, they're causing harm. But if you open your mind in that way, you can hold on to your sanity, is what I say. And remember, That is part of our mission here too. In addition to not taking part in the lie, we prism mates, as opposed to prison mates, we prism mates know that health is at the center of everything we must do for now and for the rest of our lives. I am recentering health because health is such a broad concept. Health includes physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health. We're doing that here. And I now want to say to you, there are people who are not participating in the lie. And I want to share with you 2 different women who knocked my socks off and decided to not just refuse the lie, but to stand up to Donald Trump. And the first is the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. And I have an address she was giving in Mexico in Spanish. And my Spanish is good enough that I can translate it for you. But I do not want to do what the UN voiceovers do, where you have the speaker really quiet in the background and the translator talks over them. I want you to hear her present her words, and then I'll give you a rough translation. But in advance, let me tell you, what she is saying is, she is calling out Donald Trump's condemnation of Mexican workers, Mexican immigrants, whether they're undocumented or they're traveling on a daily basis to work in America. And she is calling out President Scribbleface Donald Trump by saying that our nation is, our economy depends upon the people of Mexico. And more than that, if people are sent back to Mexico, that we, meaning people of Mexico, will welcome them with open arms and provide them the support that they need. So take a listen to this now.
Pero que se oiga bien y que se oiga fuerte, las y los mexicanos allá sostienen la economía de los Estados Unidos, en el campo, en los servicios, en todos lados. Estados Unidos no sería lo que es si no fuera por un pueblo trabajador que se vaya a ayudar. Así que van a recibir siempre nuestro apoyo, nuestra solidaridad, y si regresan a México, regresan con nuestros brazos abiertos para darles todo lo que se merecen, porque son generosos, solidarios, como es el pueblo mixteco y todos los pueblos de nuestro país.
Absolutely love that. So in short, she is saying, listen up. The economy of the United States depends upon workers from Mexico, and they work in the fields and they work in service industries, right? That is what she is saying. How dare you do that? How dare you demonize people from Mexico, right? And of course, Donald Trump isn't just trying to attack undocumented workers from Mexico. We had the trade war that he started this weekend with Colombia, which, as I predicted yesterday, he's claiming he won, even though he backed down from the demands of President Petro. Now, my second person is Selena Gomez. And Selena Gomez is extremely, extremely upset about the beginning of the very cruel mass deportation of immigrants that Donald Trump is starting. Now, she is, just to say a little bit about Selena Gomez, because I think you probably know, she is a very successful actress or actor and businesswoman. She was born in America, right? She was born in Texas. And she is concerned with what is happening with mass deportation. She considers herself a proud third generation American Mexican, right? Is what she has said. So that is how she identifies. And this is kind of shocking how cruel people are. So let me share with you what is going on. Then I'm going to share with you a video clip. So this is a fan page that I've taken a screenshot of for Selena Gomez, and it says U.S. Senate candidate Sam Parker tweeted threatening to deport American-born Selena Gomez, and he did that, and he was sharing her tearful TikTok videos, and I'm going to share with you because the cruelty is the point. So let me share this for you because it is touching. This is an extremely wealthy, successful businesswoman and actor in the United States, apologetic for what our government is doing to her people and wishes she could do more. This is hard to watch. It's sad, but I think it's important for us to witness this with her.
I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
I feel what she is doing, and she is sharing raw emotion, right? This is not an act, right? She is red. She is, what we say, like ugly crying. She is in so much pain. We are all Selena Gomez, and I'm so glad to be a witness to this. And I am disgusted by the people who would choose to mock her. Okay, so on this theme of the simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie. In addition to the people we have seen, Claudia Scheinbaum, right? Catherine Rampell, Selena Gomez. We have seen them refuse to take part in the lie. And we're going to talk a little more about other examples. But right now, because I'm telling you they shouldn't take part in the lie, let me bring forward some truth and some of the lies being told. So let me just give you some truth, some context, because this may be something that you're not aware of. You have been hearing probably about grant funding being cut. And I think for a lot of people who don't get grants as part of university life, and it's mostly people in the sciences, for example, but others, National Institute of Health and other grants aren't just like nice money to be given to buy, let's say, I don't know, microscopes or stethoscopes or telescopes, right? This isn't just like, or to fund people to travel to a conference. Grants are the lifeblood of these parts of universities. They pay the salaries of the professors. They pay the salaries of the grad students. They fund grad students so their PhDs are paid for, so we can continue in the really groundbreaking research we need to do as a nation. And cutting government funding for this only makes us fall behind if you care about competitiveness, and it hurts the people here. It's bad for the general welfare. And let me just remind you before I share some details on this, just yesterday, it turns out that China has launched an AI app, right, that has freaked out the stock markets and hurt the tech bros, right? This is something called DeepSeek, and I'm not going to go into details about that today, but tech stocks fell yesterday because there was an article, like, I think it was first in the, I don't know if it was in the Wall Street Journal, but anyway, this all spread all over yesterday with people in the tech industry saying, wow, essentially in a single day, this AI app has dethroned ChatGPT. And this shows, that America can easily fall behind. Why in the world will you want the President of the United States to be giving orders to defund research of any type? Okay, so let me tell you what it means when a grant is cut. This is something Katie Mack, who's a great follow on Blue Sky, had to say. And I think this makes things a lot clearer. She says, I think some people hear grants, like the word grant, and think that without them, scientists and government workers just have less stuff to play with at work. Okay, but grants fund salaries for students, academics, researchers, and people who work in all areas of public service. This pausing of grants means people don't eat. Okay, so I think that helps lay that out. That's some truth. Now, can we talk about the mendacious, the malevolent, and the moronic? And I know yesterday I kept saying malevolent. I kept having this verbal tick, which is kind of funny because I was saying malevolent instead of malevolent. And you can just, I'm laughing about it now. And thank you for all the correction. Okay, here's what I got. Here is also a lie. If you can believe it, guys, yesterday, President Scribbleface, Donald Trump, literally told people that the federal government had invaded or California to turn the water back on or some nonsense like that. And I hate to even repeat his lie, but I have to give you the context to tell you what the actual truth is and what an utter nutter, what a mendacious, malevolent moron Donald Trump is. Okay, so here's what actually happened. This is the California government saying. The military, because he said that the U.S. military had entered California. The military did not enter California. The federal government restarted federal water pumps after they were offline for maintenance for 3 days. State water supplies in Southern California remain plentiful. So get a load of this BS. I mean, get a load of this. Donald Trump is claiming that he brought in troops to bring water to California when it was a federal government source that was down for maintenance, and all it did was get turned back on. Okay, he is crazy like a fox because people are going to repeat this, but I just want to let you know, not true, because I don't want you to worry that the military invaded California. Okay, that did not happen. Okay, now, as for more of this mendacity, right, malevolence, and moronic behavior, welcome to the idiocracy. We also had this. Okay, now you may remember, I'm going to pull this away to set this up. You may remember that there has been a lot of communication through the Office of Personnel Management in the government, that there's this focus on many things, including language around DEIA and removing it, and other essentially Project 2025 agendas coming through the Office of Personnel Management to be distributed to federal government employees. And the thing is, when you do, malevolent things, only idiots will work for you. And so here's what the idiots did. Okay, let me read this from Molly White. Joyce Vance said, I am completely unsurprised, but, it still is jaw-dropping. The people now in charge of the Office of Personnel Management apparently don't know how to scrub PDF metadata and have exposed the original authors of the guidance they're publishing. 2, Noah Peters and James Stark have links to the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. They don't mean hyperlinks. I think they mean ties to it. Now, okay, friends, you might not know what metadata is, but let me give you an example using a Word file. Have you ever written a memo or had a memo that you used? Let's say you wrote a recommendation for a student, I don't know, like me, like 10 years ago. And you're like, I liked that format. And you copy that and you change it around and you rewrite something, but it's this, at least you got the header and the footer and the last paragraph if you have any further questions, right? And everything else is new. Or similarly, if you have to write a memo for work and you're new at a job and you ask a friend, what format do you use? And they email you the format they used, and then you just redo it. Well, there's metadata, meaning you can look quite easily and see when was this first made, who was the author of it, and so on. Okay. So these morons were just literally using things they got from Project 2025 or the Heritage Foundation backing it. So not that it's a surprise. We knew that that was the agenda, but it's laid out now for all of us to see. Okay, so that is a little more idiocracy. But the highlight of the show that we're about to get to is speaking with Randi Weingarten, president of the AFT, and I'll be introducing her in a second. But before we get to that, we've got two things. We have a new feature called Law School Live, and then, of course, we have Crazy Town. Law School Live is going to be a segment in our show when there is something, which there often is, kind of legal that we have to unpack. Those times when you've seen me do it before without a label, when I show you this is what the indictment said, or here's what the statute actually reads, and so on, right? We've been through that before. Today's Law School Live, my friends, though, is something that you are going to have to learn about because people are going to be talking about this for a long time. That is a statute called the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Now you see that I have a slide here that says 50th anniversary of this statute. The 50th anniversary was last summer, so we're not quite at 51, but we will be soon. So the Impoundment Control Act, it is 50 years old. What do you need to know about it? Why am I even talking about it? Well, Donald Trump just did something that is so stupid that it's going to land him in the United States Supreme Court and he's going to lose. But it is in his effort to completely either dismantle the federal government so that he can then give, trillions of dollars of tax cuts to the billionaires and corporations who pull his strings. Donald Trump may also want to take away money, so everything he gives is given with extracts a carrot, right, in exchange, like that becomes transactional. So the reason why I mentioned the Impoundment Control Act, and I think that you've heard about it in the news, is that, as you probably know, the power to spend, the power to allocate funds comes from the Congress, right? And there is a statute from 1974, right, because of Nixon, making sure that the president does not have the legal authority to refuse to spend money that Congress has appropriated, right? There are two committees, and one in the House and one in the Senate, which are the Congressional Appropriation Committees. And this is the power of the purse lays with the Congress. Now, this statute gets a little detailed. So in a few minutes, we're going to go over it now, but you'll be hearing about it because you remember our friend Steve Vladeck, who was on the show last week? This is going to be the U.S. Supreme Court case of the term. This is possibly the most important thing for the survival of our republic. So let's just dip our toes in the water. What exactly is this statute? Well, let me start out with our friend Steve Vladeck and tell you what he had to say. He said, okay, so what's going on now? I should back up, is the Office of Management and Budget is trying to say that they're freezing spending across numerous agencies. And so Steve says, to play this out, there will literally be dozens of lawsuits challenging what OMB is doing on the ground that it violates the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Donald Trump's Department of Justice will argue that the act is unconstitutional, and this will quickly get to SCOTUS, where it will be the biggest case of the term. Now, I think to best understand this, I think we need to understand exactly what OMB is doing, right? And then I'll take a quick peek for you at the statute itself. So let's just start with the concept of what Donald Trump is trying to do. So through executive orders, and I'm going to throw it in the chat for you, something that will be helpful. This will help explain exactly what he is doing if you want to follow up on this. But he has issued several executive orders directing agencies to pause funds that have already been appropriated by Congress. And he has imposed a 90-day pause. For example, in foreign development assistance, right? This is money that funds distribution of, medication, including related to preventing and treating diseases, including AIDS. He has also instructed the Attorney General and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that so-called sanctuary cities do not receive federal funds. Okay, so these blanket declarations of this type, there's no question, all legal experts believe that they violate the Impoundment Control Act, right? Okay, so what the heck is the Impoundment Control Act? Well, this is, and I'm going to give you an executive summary in the chat, and then we're going to talk about it briefly. And before I say this, I just want to be clear, Democrats are actually doing something about this, okay? I'm going to tell you briefly what the statute is about, but I want to make you clear that the Democrats in the House and the Senate, even though we are in the minority, are speaking out about this. So we have that the two leaders, essentially the ranking members of both the House and the Senate appropriations committees, have sounded the alarm. And they have, as you can see, Allison Gill of Mueller, she wrote, they've sent a letter, and I know you can imagine, a letter, but this is the first step in the process, right? This is a letter to the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget saying, not today, OMB. This violates the Impoundment Control Act. And no, merely putting a pause on this won't fly. So I am going to share briefly with you this screen that will be helpful if you want to get a brief explainer on the Impoundment Control Act. So this comes from, I think you can see this pretty well, great. This comes from, I'm giving you a link to the House Committee on the Budget. And this is an executive summary. It is so helpful. It starts out with what is the Impoundment Control Act? I already told you it was passed in 1974, but what it does is establish the procedures to prevent the president and other government officials from unilaterally substituting their own funding decisions for those of the Congress. Okay? It also created both the House and Senate budget committees, of which we speak, and the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. Now, why was it necessary? A question you should always ask with any law or regulation. It was necessary because of President Nixon his administration refusing to release congressionally appropriated funds, okay? So even though the Constitution gives the Congress the power of the purse, they wanted to create an infrastructure, the committees and the OMB, to be able to step up. Now, the last thing before we get to crazy town here is what does the word impound mean? And impoundment in this context means action or inaction by an officer or employee of the federal government that would preclude the federal funds that have been obligated to be spent either temporarily or permanently. Okay, so there's a whole procedure here. And I'm going to stop sharing because it's up to you. I do think I put this in the chat, but if I didn't, I'm gonna throw this in the chat, the link. We'll talk about it more, but now you have a place to understand what this law is about. And please get that you can follow people on Blue Sky. This includes Steve Vladeck, who has a newsletter on this, as well as another law professor, Sam Bagenstos, a friend of mine who teaches at University of Michigan. He is a good person to follow on Blue Sky. If you didn't get how to spell their names, you can go to my feed today on Blue Sky. I have retweeted them, so to speak, and you can follow them. They are on top of this, as are others. And yes, you will not be able to avoid the Impoundment Control Act. Now, I think Randi is going to be here any second. So let me share with you Crazy Town. Here we go. Okay, Crazy Town, you guys, is not going to be a video. Crazy Town is it's really insane. It's something that President Scribbleface has said. He was speaking from his, I think from Florida, what was called, I guess, to House GOP members, something he's calling the Congressional Institutes. Maybe they all went down to Doral to hang out in one of his clubs or what have you. So what Aaron Rupert reports, and there was a video here, but you don't need to see the video because we don't like to look at his face or hear his voice. It's nauseating. What we know is that Donald Trump is saying that he wants to take convicts, felons, and fly them to other countries who will incarcerate them for a small fee. And what's crazy, guys, what's crazy about this is I think he should go first. I mean, that seems like a hell of a bargain, right? Send him somewhere for a small fee where he could be incarcerated. Unfortunately, though, as we know, he was not given a prison term, so that doesn't work. But in all seriousness, this is utterly crazy. It ain't going to happen. Now, I want to introduce to you our guests, Randi Weingarten. Yeah, it turns out she is going to be here. It turns out she's running a little bit late, and she will be here at 9:15. So what that means is, I guess it means two things. One, I am going to engage in two things. One, I'm going to engage in a bit of an introduction of Randi, and I'm going to also do a tell me or ask me anything segment, whether it's about the Impoundment Control Act, about PRISM, or anything else. So let's first talk about the amazing Randi Weingarten. Okay, Randi is the president, and she has been the president since 2011 of the American Federation of Teachers, also known as the AFT. 3 years ago in 2022, there was a special relationship joining up the American Association of University Professors with the AFT. So now that I am at a public university again, this means that I am not just a member of the AAUP, but I am also a member of Randi's union, the American Federation of Teachers. And this is a 1.8 million member union. And this represents teachers in, elementary and high school, paraprofessionals in those schools, and school-related personnel. Higher education faculty and staff, woohoo, me, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, local, state, and federal government employees, and early childhood educators. She is an amazing person. She has not just a background in teaching, but she also happens to have a law degree. And because we are talking about unions, and I'm going to ask her about the importance of unions now, I want to bring up to you some fabulous news, which I'm sure that you have seen, which is this. Did you hear about a new union, right? Being formed for the first time. And here is my, at Whole Foods. Now, you may know this, but Whole Foods, and I'm going to share this with you. I think I can share this screen. I don't need to share the screen with you. I can just tell you this. Whole Foods is now owned by Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos's company, right? Whole Foods. And they have formed their very first union. Now, I know you're aware that unions were formed at Amazon recently, but this new union formed at Whole Foods. It's the chain's very first union, and it was formed in Philadelphia. And this is a huge win. I think I will share this. This is a good article to share with you from the New York Times, because, you know, we're going to be talking about unions. Yes, Susan Thompson calls it whole paycheck. That's so funny. People do call Whole Foods whole paycheck. Back where I used to live in Massachusetts, we had a grocery store called Bread and Circus. And people called it, I think, Bread and Paycheck, maybe. But now, of course, whole paycheck is the joke for Whole Foods. Okay, now, you know, you don't have to shop at Whole Foods. I mean, it's good if it's the only place you can find healthy food. And I think that's great. Like, I do like a Whole Foods. I also prefer, though, when I can, joining a co-op, not the kind where I have to volunteer to work, but like a co-op which can source the same healthy and local foods as well as packaged products that we all enjoy. So this is a picture of the Whole Foods market in Philadelphia that just voted on whether to join the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, folks. And you can hear that yesterday, I mean, this is utterly breaking news when it comes to union membership. We know, friends, that yesterday this happened, that this is the first unionized store in Amazon's grocery chain. And, you know, Amazon has been trying to fight off what it perceives as a threat of labor organizing into many of its segments of business. So let's just be clear. This is a store, if you know Philly, in the Spring Garden neighborhood. They voted 130 to 100 in favor of organizing with this union. And this is what the National Labor Relations Board reported yesterday. Why is this important? Why did the employees at Whole Foods want this union? Well, they were hoping, the 130 who voted for it, hoped the union would be able to help them in collective bargaining, right? To negotiate higher wages above their current starting rate of $16 an hour, and also better benefits. And there are also long-term employees who were there prior to when Amazon purchased it in 2017, who have noticed and are frustrated with how there have been benefit cuts and cuts in staffing levels ever since that takeover. Okay, so obviously this is the first store. They have a bigger goal. I mean, Whole Foods has 500 stores, and they're obviously working on union organizing drives. Ben Lovett, who is an employee at the Philly store, said, we've shown that it's possible to organize at Amazon. We also have Wendell Young, the fourth, who's president of the local UFCW Local 1776, great number. This is the local union that represents food and retail workers in Pennsylvania, which it seems now that this Amazon store has joined. He said today's victory is an important step forward. What about Whole Foods, right? Obviously, Whole Foods might not be entirely thrilled. So Whole Foods said in a statement that the company was disappointed by the election result, but that it offered competitive compensation and benefits for employees, and that it was committed to making a positive working environment at the Philadelphia store. Okay, so we have some context here. There was an unfair labor practice charge filed with the labor board by this local union that represents these workers now. And they accused Whole Foods of firing an employee at that Philadelphia store in retaliation for supporting the union drive. Whole Foods, of course, said they comply with all legal requirements when they were communicating about this. Now, of course, companies often say is a union is not needed, right? That's what the company said, but they respect the employee's right to choose one. Well, I guess, I'm going to trust the majority of the employees who believe that they do need a union, right? That's what I believe. You know, you can always get rid of the union too if they decide it's not serving them. So this is like huge, huge news for us. Now, this gets us totally ready to talk a little bit more about, and I'm going to set this up. Randi's coming on to discuss many topics, the first of which is the lawsuit the American Federation of Teachers is bringing against the Office of Management and Budget, right? The same group we were just talking about that was violating, the same agency involved in violating the Impoundment Control Act. So this is a lawsuit AFT and other organizations, including CREW. And I know you think you've seen CREW before. I gave you a link from CREW, which is Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, and a few other organizations, including a government employee union. And they're suing, as I said, the Office of Management and Budget, the acting director of the OMB, as well as this so-called DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And we talked a little bit about that when Steve Laddick was on the show. And remember, I said I had never heard of the statute in question, FACA. And the FACA statute deals with the Federal Advisory Committee Act. And I want to, ask Randi a little bit more about this lawsuit. I mean, Steve was saying, well, it made sense on day one when Donald Trump took over to bring the lawsuit, the FACA lawsuit, because at that time, this Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy advisory group where Elon Musk's mother shows up, was outside entirely of government. It wasn't a department. Well, now, subsequent to Donald Trump taking office, we are hearing that they're kind of they kicked Ramaswamy to the curb, and that they're bringing Elon Musk's team somehow into an office in the White House, which may, as a result, shift the kind of litigation that will have to be brought against DOGE, OMB, and the OMB acting director. But we can talk about that. I'm excited for her to join us. She is an incredible role model, not just good at labor organizing and leadership, but also at litigation. I mean, she does have, as I mentioned, not just as a teacher, but a background as a lawyer, worked at a very large, prestigious law firm in New York, and learned skills, some of which obviously she was born with, some of which she acquired along the way, on how to be a tough and wise litigator, as well as leader. Now, I just heard Steve McCloud just said to me that Stevie Wiles kicked them out of the White House. And Steve, you might mean that physically, that they are not physically in the White House, right? But my understanding, and I can ask Randi about this based on what Steve told us, is while they are not physically in the White House, they may be part of the White House, inside of government, as opposed to outside, which again would raise different issues. So let's talk a little bit about what the concern is under the FACA, under the Federal Advisory Committee Act. And that is that these folks are operating in the equivalent of smoke-filled rooms, making decisions about issues that will affect federal employees without giving any kind of open meeting transparency or access by those federal employees to those discussions, right? And that's a huge problem. Of course, we have a separate issue to the extent that these folks are brought in to the federal government, because there are all kinds of criminal, not just civil, conflicts of interest statutes that would apply. Now, we had a situation when Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump were in the White House, and they didn't follow the disclosures or the related conflicts of interest rules. But somehow, under Donald Trump's first term, they made the argument somehow that they weren't technically being paid. But let's just focus on the fact that I see Randi is here. She, I don't think, got to hear the great things we said about her before she's joining us. But I would like to let her know, and you know, that we are so excited to hear from her. As a reminder, Randi is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, which is my union. I mean, some people dream of just sitting down for a cup of coffee with their, union local organizer. My union is 6075, which is both AAUP and AFT. And that is something most people do. But you know me, I'm like, I'll go to the top. I want to talk to Randi. I've actually met her before. She's a lovely, smart person. The union, she is president of 1.8 million members, right? We talked about, elementary and high school teachers, paraprofessionals, school-related personnel, higher ed faculty and staff, nurses, other healthcare professionals. These are state, federal, and government employees and early childhood educators. And let's see Randi right now. I'm going to get rid of this slide. There you are.
There I am.
Randi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jen. It's been quite a morning already. Sorry that I'm delayed, but there's a reason why.
Are you allowed to disclose why you're delayed or no?
Yeah, totally. God.
Please tell us. We can't wait.
I mean, this goes right to your show today, which is about an hour ago. The New York Times breaks a story. Maybe it was 45 minutes ago. I don't even remember.
Wow.
But breaks a story that says that Donald Trump has now stopped not only all federal AID aid, that was a couple of days ago, but just stopped all federal aid to states and localities.
What?
So Title I, IDA, transportation, everything but Social Security and Medicare. So yes, look at So
holy guacamole! What are you talking about, Randi?
On the New York Times website, somebody sends this to me. This is part of the reason why you need unions.
Oh,
so
sure.
I basically, the first call I make is to somebody to say, I'm going to be late for your interview. Because I knew we have a 9 o'clock, we have a 9 o'clock management call, but I called, my friends and asked me, and I have a bunch of other calls out and calls to our lawyers. And this, we're going to have to sue ASAP. Because what this
and when you say ASAP, you're referring to as soon as possible, not some organization inside of the government.
Yes, as soon as possible.
Well, get off the show. What are you doing talking to me? I'm a Nevitz.
But listen, that's why I wouldn't get on the show until I started a process in place. But this is the perfect, answer to what you wanted me to talk about, which is what's going on in terms of this Trump era. Now, everything that just happened here is about creating crisis and creating a sense of dictator for a day or dictator for more than a day.
Right.
And this is not about helping people. This is about crashing the government. And that's not what people voted for.
No.
People do not want more uncertainty. Oh, look, I'm sure there are some people who want a strong man, but this level of uncertainty and chaos on top of ICE agents going into schools and hospitals, on top of pardoning all the J6 people, including the ones who beat the shit out of cops. Right. This is not what most people who voted for Donald Trump voted for. And this is certainly not what the people who voted for Harris voted for. So I'm not, we are in this kind of moment of mass chaos and confusion. And this is what autocrats do. And I'm hoping, I was hoping that Donald Trump would be a different kind of second term president. But it does feel like what he's doing is basically coddling the billionaires and basically trying to create enough chaos and enough of a strong man that he creates a lot of fear. It's not driving down gas prices or the price of eggs or any of these other things. So part of
It's,
your
sorry, go ahead.
union, let me just
Yes,
say one last
my
thing.
union, yes.
Part of what your union does is this is part of worker power and part of protecting people to try to make sure that we can not only fight back, but get to the better life that supposedly, any politician should want workers to have and working families to have. But first and foremost, to get there, we're going to have to sue. We're going to have to work really hard in the next couple of days to make sure that people don't lose, all this federal money that Congress has appropriated and that goes to the states and goes to localities for, frankly, red states and blue states. We need more federal dollars, not less, and not things to be embargoed or impounded like he tried to do today. It's crazy making, but worse, it's really cruel, and it's really undermining the American dream.
It is. And two things, Randy. The thing I love about the union movement is the idea of shared prosperity.
Yeah.
That's at the heart of it, right? And I think almost all Americans, unless you're some weird sadist or have authoritarian fantasies, want shared prosperity. They just believe mistakenly that it's not possible, that there's scarcity. And here we have Donald Trump, who doesn't want that. He's sadistic and he wants, and I'm going to let you go soon, I know you've got to run, he wants authoritarian top-down rule. I'm so glad you mentioned impoundment, because before you came on, we went through a mini law school talking about, as you can see, the Impoundment Control Act. And I told people you're going to hear about that all the time. So Randy, please go sue
Thank
people.
you, Jen.
Love you.
Love you.
Good luck. Be well.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Holy shiitake. We are so lucky that we had Randy's time. I saw her look up, and I knew that must have been someone walked into her office and was giving her the hook. This is, I'm taking it all in. So glad to have her here. And we're going to end the show with a little Crazy Town music. And I am always grateful for you. Always grateful that we will fight this. I want to say something Steve McLeod said in the comments. Yes, the markets, we should watch them. The market doesn't open until 9:30, the stock markets. And I think the only people making money here will be something called the VIX index, VIX, which is a volatility index. Don't quote me, but it's going to be a bumpy ride. But the lawsuits are coming, my friends. And remember, as I say on this show, hope is the thing with lawyers. And with that, goodbye.